Wheeling Plan Commission meeting for Thursday, May 14th, 2015 is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Dorband.
I'm here.
Commissioner Johnson, I am here. Commissioner Powers.
Here.
Commissioner Stilen is absent with prior notice. Commissioner Zangara.
Here.
And Chairman Façade.
Here. Mr. Jennings, any changes to the agenda?
We do not have any changes.
Okay, great. Citizens' concerns and comments? And then consent items. Docket number SCBA 15-14, SW Massage 77 South Milwaukee Avenue, appearance approval of a wall sign. Docket number SCBA 15-15, Boost Mobile. There's SW Massage. Boost Mobile, 524 West Dundee Road, appearance approval wall signs. And docket number SCBA 15-17, Daisy Nail Spa, 17 Huntington Lane, appearance approval of a wall sign.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Powers, second by Commissioner Dorband. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
Commissioner Dorband.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson is a yes. Commissioner Zangara.
Yes.
And Chairman Façade.
Yes,
May I ask one question?
of course.
On SW Massage, is that their logo or is that on their cards or whatever? I mean, I just was curious why it's just SW.
I don't know that we know that.
Pardon me?
I don't know that we have anything from them.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of that, and I forgot to mention it, are they going to do something with the facade?
Those tend to age pretty rapidly, so they should age out within a few months.
Okay. Okay, great.
The shakes up there.
The shake. Okay, great. Thank you. Items for review. Docket number SCBA 1516, U.S. Freight Express, 375 North Wolf Road, appearance approval of wall signs. Mr. Jennings.
Thank you. The petitioner is proposing new wall signs for the business, which is located on North Wolf. The packet that you have for the sign application includes a business identification sign and an additional sign. By the sign code, the Plan Commission can review additional signage under the criteria listed in the code and determine whether the additional signage can be permitted in addition to the business identification. In this case, staff felt that the additional signage met the definition of a changeable copy area and requested the petitioner be present here tonight to review the sign. As a additional sign with changeable copy on it, it would not be permitted as shown. If that sign were to be displayed here, it would likely have to be moved indoors and displayed for customers who are already inside. The code would allow if I can use the pointer here, the proposed business identification panel could be modified with some additional text to indicate that international shipping is provided, or something else to indicate what the business offers. But the changeable copy area, if the Plan Commission agrees that that is changeable copy, would not be permitted as displayed here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Is the petitioner here? If you could come up to the podium. And could you give your name?
My name is Natalia, and I am the manager of U.S. Freight Express.
Okay, great. Anything else to add besides what Mr. Jennings said?
The only thing is that the only changeable part could be the prices, which we don't plan to change. And this is only to show that because most of the shipping companies that I do know myself that exist, they do not do shipping for as many countries as we do. And since Wheeling is such a cultural village here in Illinois. We would like those other cultures to know that we do ship, and this is the price for which we offer our service.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll start with Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Oh. What?
No, if you had any questions, I didn't want her to walk away.
Well, you say it's not changeable copy, but if a country raises their postal rates, how are you gonna?
What was, because we ordered our signs with Wheeling Signs, which are also located on Wolf Road, and the sign itself won't come off. The only thing that could possibly, if God forbid anything happens, is those numbers on there are removable.
So then
It's
it is
changeable then.
changeable copy. It just seems way too busy, and it's not like you're seeing the prices from the street. Your customers would still have to come all the way in their park and read the sign. So my feeling is you might as well just have it either on a poster in the window or inside, get them inside so you can sell your service, rather than have this very busy looking poster outside. My other concerns would be the color fastness of all these colorful flags. I mean, flags are great, but when the sun beats down on that vinyl, it tends to change colors, and you're going to be updating it quite a bit, I think. That's about all I have to say on it.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you. Commissioner Zangara.
My first question is, are you taking up that whole building?
Yes, we are.
Is there a reason why the U.S. Freight Express sign isn't above the door instead of the window?
They just, I don't know, it was a suggestion made for us from the Wheeling Signs that it would fit perfectly on top of the window, just because we have, on the right side, it's hard to be viewed, but on the right side of the doors, there's a huge pine tree, I suppose, and it would be covering a part of it.
And then my second question is, if you go to the blow up of the sign, why isn't that your logo sign, where it says U.S. Freight Express? That one's a much nicer sign than the blue and yellow.
I am the manager, I am not the owner, so I guess I have no word of that. I believe that the sign is blue and yellow just because our owner, he is Ukrainian, and he wanted to, I guess, put in a piece of himself into that sign.
Well, is this the actual logo of the company?
This is the actual logo for the shipping, but, let's say that 3/3 of the building is taken up by shipping company. The other 1/4 of that company is taken up by us dispatchers. We do over-the-road trucking. So that's why they have, for the shipping, I guess they have the, how do you call that? They have like an envelope, and just basically the blue and yellow is just our name.
Okay, and I would definitely like to see that more prominent in, like Commissioner Johnson said, I really, the prices and everything, I'd like to see inside. I mean, I would suggest to see if you go back and see if that could be your sign on the building. It's just so much nicer than just
I would
these
really have to
block
talk it
letters.
over with our
So-
owner.
But that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Dorbin.
Well, I would have to say the same thing. I think the sign that's there now is much more attractive than the other one, number one. And number two, this could easily be converted to yellow and blue as well. And as far as all your prices being located on the outside of the building, it's much too cluttered. And somebody would have to get up in front of the, right to the sign anyway and read it. So it probably should be inside. And I would have to also say that I would be afraid of the color fastness of that sign. So I just think there's a number of things that need to be talked about, and I'm just curious why the owner didn't come with you.
He's a truck driver, and he's over the road right now.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Commissioner Powers.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I agree. I like this logo better. And I feel like the sign is too cluttered. You could move it inside. One thing I did notice is you guys have a website out there, and you had the countries listed, but when I clicked on one of the countries, nothing came up. And I assume that you're going to work those rates into your website, so maybe, I don't know if this would be allowable, maybe you could put your website name on the sign somewhere, so somebody could, you know, get the website name and go to the website. Maybe you have your shipping rates there. I mean, that's a possibility I could offer to you, but I think it would help if you got the website updated with your rates. And so does the owner actually own the property itself?
No, he does not. We rent it.
You rent it from somebody?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing related to sign, but boy, the grass there is really needs a lot of work. It's
I am ashamed.
yeah, it looks really pretty unsightly right now, and that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, a couple of things that I heard is, one, for sure the sign that that's got the changeable copy on it, because it is changeable copy, it's really not allowed, and there were a number of other reasons that that should go inside. And I think that was the consensus of the commission. But Commissioner Zangara and Commissioner Dorban, Mr. Powers echoed the same thing, that there could be something done with the sign. And I know you're not the owner. So would we be in agreement to, would it be a table?
Well, it depends. The commission certainly could approve. There was consensus, I think, to have this logo worked into the sign. The commission could certainly recommend conditional approval, and if the owner does not like what has been conditionally approved, they could revise the sign and come back. It could also just be tabled to see how the logo looks on it. If the sign that's changeable copy is agreed to be removed from the exterior and put in a window, which it could possibly, the sign might be able to be modified in some way to meet our window sign regulations, so it would still be visible. So the idea of the multiple countries could be seen. So the commission could table it with direction. They could have the petitioner come back with a revised sign or provide specific direction.
I think two things, and I'll get consensus. I'll go to the commission, but I think I'd like to table it for two reasons. One, if the desire is to move that through the window, that would have to be resized. So they have two options with the copy here. Either change it to fit into the window, or just take the whole sign and put it inside the building. And then the other is, and I think I have consensus there, is that we'd like to see a logo added to the sign. Are we in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I ask one question, Andrew?
Sure.
I don't know about the AlumiCore. Do you know, do we have lots of other businesses in the village that use the AlumiCore?
We've had signs that use a similar construction. I don't know AlumiCore specifically. I have not handled it. We haven't had a sample of it provided to us that I recall, but we've had the idea of having some sort of thin panel with a lightweight corrugated or other type of, some of them have been plastic, like a foam style plastic behind it with a metal panel on it to give some relief off the building. So we've seen these types of core specifically.
Okay.
Commissioner Dorban, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just thought maybe we should give them some more direction on what we would like to see besides just saying a logo. And quite honestly, the sign the way it is, and if you lopped it off without putting the person with the boxes, I think that that would be an acceptable looking sign. I just thought that maybe we should give them more direction.
Good point.
Just to, while you're here, you could also let the owner know, in addition to the name of the business, a panel like this could be modified to include some reference to the region that you ship to. You could even list, if it's, we've got Eastern Europe, you could list a couple of different regions, all points in Eastern Europe, something like that. They could add an additional description
strap.
to the name of the business, and that would be acceptable on a panel sign. If a sign is also designed that meets all of the code requirements and includes the general direction, you wouldn't necessarily have to attend another meeting. We could put it as a consent item like the other signs that you saw tonight. So if the owner revises the sign with the sign company, it's possible that another appearance wouldn't be needed.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So let's say we will not put this sign particular on the wall. Is there any way possible that we're going to keep it inside then, I believe? So basically the blue and yellow one, so it's not approved as of right now?
As of right now, the consensus of the Plan Commission was to request that the owner consider adding some type of logo, such as the one here, to that sign, to add some interest to it. If revisions are being made, you can also then add descriptive text to it that
Yes.
describes what the nature of the business is.
International shipping, something like that.
Yeah, tagline, right. And as Commissioner Dorban said, what's being displayed now, package shipping company with the logo, you could build in some type of tagline underneath that. I mean, if you eliminate the person.
So you can, your options right now, because there's no meeting scheduled in all likelihood next week, what you would be able to do is, it sounds as though the consensus is to table it, which means they would not vote at all. They wouldn't deny it, they wouldn't approve it. They would table it so you could go back to the owner and discuss revisions. If you need identification of the business in the meantime, say it takes a month to work on this, if you need identification of the business, we do offer temporary sign permits, and you can certainly apply through our office if you need to identify the business right now.
It's just that we have already conquered some problems where people look for us and cannot find us.
Sure, the temporary sign permit process is handled over our counter, essentially. It takes just a few minutes usually.
What if, let's say, I would get everything revised tomorrow and just email Ms. Brooke? What if we would just basically, if possible, leave the blue and yellow sign and just add the envelope and to the corner of it?
Up to the commission if they.
We would have to see how it looks.
Okay,
Yep, we'd have to see how it looks. Yes, definitely.
thank you.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dorban, seconded by Commissioner Powers. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Dorban?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson is a yes. Commissioner Zangara?
Yes.
And Chairman Raffato?
Yes. Great.
I'm going to print something for you. You can take back to the owner.
Thank you. I am the business owner, however, I'm the manager. Thank you.
Sorry.
You writing home to somebody?
I just wanted to make sure that the owner got the description here. Okay.
Pardon?
Sign it or just-
You can just hand it to her. Approval of minutes, April 9th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of minutes for April 16th, 2015. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No? Okay. Any noes? No. Good. Other business, Mr. Jennings.
Thank you. We had a few meetings ago discussed going through the Plan Commission projects list that was started a few years back and updated from time to time. We had talked about going through that list and lining it up with the strategic plan, and then also adding items from the strategic plan to that list, and basically reprioritizing the items. It was decided at that time that it would be appropriate to wait until there are 7 commissioners and everyone's present for the meeting. That is still the plan. That is not the purpose of this discussion. The purpose of this discussion is really just to summarize what has been done thus far, not to reprioritize, not necessarily add new items to the list. So really, this was just to create the connection between projects that the commission and the planning staff have been working on, and just to sort of make sure that everybody's aware of what we've done so far and where we are in the process here. We had a fairly light agenda, and we thought that it would be a good time to go through some of these items very briefly so that we can get a little bit of feedback so that we can keep working on them. So I'm just going to go through that, and we can kind of, it's an open discussion. We don't really have much formal presentation on this. Going backwards. For the connections for neighborhood access, the village has ongoing crosswalk, sidewalk, and path projects. Some of them are in various stages of planning and construction. We do have a number of projects that are in the 5-year capital projects plan that would open up access points that are obstructed in some way or another, either 2 streets dead end at one another. You have locations where there's no sidewalk on one side of the street or the other. There is no functional crosswalk. So some of these items are in the capital projects plan. You don't necessarily see them. You have seen some of them through your work on the active transportation plan, and they have been inserted now. We have a sidewalk installation program where we have a certain linear footage of sidewalk as a goal for each year over the next 7 years. And so some of those items are being done now without any additional review by the Planning Commission, except when some of them do overlap with projects. Northgate Crossing had sort of reprioritized a sidewalk segment that was lower down on our list, and that was added to the TIF project in the redevelopment there. So we do have some other projects. The Whitley has some connections on it, improving access to the pedestrian bridge. Potawatomi Prairie, which is an ongoing planning effort with the Forest Preserve District near the Weston, does have some neighborhood connection implications, connecting pathways to different locations. We do have, as I said, in the CIP, though, a number of sidewalk segments that are being constructed or planned for right now. Any questions, comments on that? The next item on the strategic plan that has some overlap with projects that we've been working on is the neighborhood identification map. It's a little bit difficult to see this. I did try to zoom in to a level where you could actually read some of the text here. This map, we've been working with our GIS office here in IT to do the work of assembling various sources. So we have some of these locations, the subdivisions, the original subdivision name has stuck. And so the neighborhoods are known by the subdivision name. Some of them are not. Some of them have taken on new names just over time. And that source has been the police beat names. So it's a combination of a couple different sources here. The next steps on this are figuring out how to vet this list. Do we go through an exercise with the commission? Do we solicit comments on the website for some period? Is there a way that we can efficiently narrow down which neighborhoods, the locations, what the boundaries are, if that even matters to some residents? I'm not sure that it does. The names, there may be more than one name for some of these. There may be an east and a west, but some of them may have two entirely different names. So we do need to figure out how to vet the neighborhood name list before we move on to the next phase of actually producing any sort of materials that identify the neighborhoods, whether signage or maps, et cetera. There is an overlap that we're going to discuss here in a minute with the streetscape and the neighborhood open space plan. And the neighborhood open space plan, the commission has worked more actively on in terms of the planning of the small and large neighborhood open spaces, the Gathering Place project, the neighborhood streetscape initiative.
For instance, Chelsea Cove, they already have a sign that identifies their area. So would you put something there, change it out? What are the thoughts there? And then are you looking to the Plan Commission to identify these names or go with a consensus of how they should be named?
No, I think what we're looking for in this next step here is ideas of how to keep the project moving. How do we get to the point where we decide which neighborhoods have adequate signage already, which neighborhoods may need to be part of a village-run project. Mm-hmm. Some of the neighborhoods have their own private management companies and have had signage that the companies maintain, and so those neighborhoods, whether they started as subdivisions or not, have an identity associated with them. So I think what we're trying to figure out are what's the appropriate roadmap to get to the completion of this project.
Sure. Okay.
And I think our staff is open to some suggestion on this. And we can certainly revisit this. We're not looking for this right now. We just kind of want to let you know where we are right now. And
cool.
Think about it, and we'll bring it back to you. Solicit ideas from the board as well on how to keep this moving.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
One item that we found that was, I think, kind of interesting, that Brooke actually located somewhat by accident, was a neighborhood identification map from Milwaukee. And in the corner of the map is this little text box that you see here that talks about why they embarked on the project, what they were seeking to achieve, what they were not trying to achieve, some of the factors that they used in coming up with the neighborhood boundaries and the neighborhood names. So we can make this more legible and send it around, but it was kind of interesting to take a look at how they worked on their project. And for their purposes, it seems like they went through, and then if you look down here, it says, we'd like your comments. It sounds, I'm not familiar with the project at all, but it sounds almost like they went through all the data they could come up with, and then assembled the map and put it out there and just let people decide what they thought about it.
Cool, okay. That's interesting.
The next phase of that would be the signage, actually identifying neighborhoods using type of signs. So far, we've just started the process. We're aware, a lot of times you'll see neighborhood signage in historic areas. So there are few examples out there where you have purely residential neighborhoods that have signage that don't have some long-standing historic tradition. So one of the things that we would look at in a project like this is to figure out, what's the appropriate type of sign, and that'll dictate somewhat how you display it. Is it the desire of the village to go toward something that's incorporated into existing street signs? Would it be banners? Are there street lights in the residential neighborhoods that lend themselves to that sort of identification? Are the street signs that identify street names a more appropriate location? So some of that's going to be a function of what's the most appropriate way to work this into the existing fabric. And if there isn't appropriate ways to display the signage, then you start looking at standalone signs, which we were talking about this before the meeting, that there's probably some fairly cost-effective ways to get standalone signage, as long as you have adequate right-of-way. And some of those are here. These are the street sign, additional tags on the street sign. But if you look, this isn't terribly easy to read, but these signs are fairly simple poles with a fairly simple finial above the identification. A sign like that, it should not be terribly difficult to locate enough right-of-way for them.
Okay. It's funny because I was just, a couple of weeks ago, the city has identification names for their neighborhoods, and I was going through Andersonville and it said, welcome to Andersonville. And it was a sign similar, shorter than the gold one there for Siler City, but it was just shorter it was on Clark Street, and it was really cool.
Not short enough to hit your head on?
No, it was actually, I can't remember where it was at, but it was tall enough for you to see as you were driving through.
They have banners or flags.
And then
too.
they have banners too, right, yeah. Interesting.
So there may be a combination that's appropriate where major corridors pass on the perimeter of the neighborhoods. Maybe you have an opportunity for one type, and where you actually have street signage, maybe there's another type. So it's just, there are a couple things to sort through. What's the best way to do this? And you can try to figure some of that out while simultaneously working on the neighborhood names themselves.
I think it'd be kind of interesting too if some signs we could just incorporate the village logo on them, because right now, some of the signs are kind of plain. Anything to dress it up, I think would be good.
Here's another local example, and what we did with this one was just combine it with the, just not the highest quality graphic, but the idea of having it be combined with the neighborhood streetscape initiative, where you have a gathering place that all, you've got a location and the identification together. And this, again, just to kind of recap what we talked about the last time that we talked about the streetscape initiative, was that there's an opportunity for sort of a large template where we have maybe the village owns a parcel that's located properly for this program. And then we have the small model of a gathering place where the village doesn't necessarily have a whole parcel, but you have public right-of-way. There's enough room for a bench, decorative pavers, some decorative grasses, and possibly a identification sign of some sort. I've seen a couple of these types of small neighborhood landscape areas with benches. I've seen them around the country. One of the ones that I saw in the south had a uniform sign. It was almost like the kind that you see along the expressway where somebody has sponsored a landscape area along the expressway.
Yep.
But this community had, the name of their program was a Spot of Pride. And so it was the little sign that said, this spot of pride by, and then it gave a little location. It could certainly be, something like that could be done for a neighborhood-based initiative too. We have some work yet to do on these. The project is not part of the CIP that I'm aware of yet. We do need to refine the estimates for the large model and the small model gathering place. And then we need to go back through the list of potential locations. We found that very few village-owned parcels, larger parcels, lent themselves to this type of program. There may be one or two, but for the most part, we were looking at using the smaller model, either within the existing right-of-way or in very small easement areas. But we do need to go back through that and start mapping it out and distributing them.
Okay.
Next item we had was a review of the facade improvement grant. The Plan Commission tends to see these during the planning phase. You don't necessarily go back through the money. So we just wanted to compile the quick list. We've had 16 grants awarded so far, with over $400,000 awarded. In the time since the program was initiated, we've had one update to the rules that I'm aware of. We expanded the types of projects that would be eligible to include a percentage of the grant award. As long as there was an aesthetic improvement, it was possible to get a non-aesthetic improvement, provided that it was deemed to be appropriate and increase the value of the property. The example that I think we've used on this one was we were able to award a grant for a restaurant that needed a grease trap in order to occupy a space. It helped them occupy the space, and it put value back into it, although it was not visible value itself. It was combined with aesthetic improvements because the rules of the program required them to. So it achieved something that they wanted to do anyway, and helped achieve aesthetic improvements outside. So that update to the rules, I think, has been effective. We've probably used it 2, maybe 3 times out of the 16 total grants awarded. So the next step for this is a more subjective review. Go through all the projects one by one and look at what the impact was, take a look at the before and after, and do sort of a very subjective review. Was this effective? Is the impact still visible? Is the business still open? Does it matter if that business is open or not in terms of the effectiveness of the program? The next step of that would then be to synthesize all that information to determine if additional changes to the rules are needed, expand, retract, regroup, whatever.
Good.
And that is it for us. Cool. So we still do plan on having a prioritization discussion. We have all 7 members present. But we did want you to start thinking about these things. We don't, and we can certainly email something out and solicit your opinions on these.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Okay. Questions or comments? Okay. Other business, Commissioner Powers?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Johnson?
Nothing.
Commissioner Dorban?
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Zangara?
I have nothing.
Brooke? Mallory? Mary?
Oh, that's quite all right.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.